Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. I just wanted to say thank you for taking time out of your busy days to come here and listen to me and listen to what I have to say. So, my mother, Romina, was beautiful, smart, and hardworking. To me, she was perfect. Due to her years of hard work, we were able to live a nice, comfortable life on a hill overlooking the Las Vegas lights. I was 18, vice president of my high school, a 4-year varsity swimmer, and an editor on my school newspaper. With a passion for words and a desire to see the world, I planned to attend the University of Nevada, Reno to continue my education as a literary artist. 3 weeks after graduation, my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, leiomyosarcoma, a rare cancer of the soft tissue, resistant to radiation and chemotherapy. The doctors told us no matter what, in 1 year, this disease would take her life. My mother did not have any kind of life insurance. Thus, I placed my college plans on hold, for I, at 18 years old, became her sole caretaker and was appointed her power of attorney. The first 6 months of her illness were very difficult. She underwent intense treatment, 25 harsh rounds of chemotherapy, and we would drive 6 hours to Santa Monica from Las Vegas just to see a specialist. I sat back and watched as my beautiful mother changed, shaved her head, lost weight, but looked swollen at the same time. I still to this day kept all the scarves she would wear around her head to conceal the balding. Sometimes I wonder if it was the cancer or the chemo that took her life. At the end of the 6 months, she underwent surgery. 7 hours later, the doctor came out and told us he couldn't stop finding tumors. To make matters worse, the disability she was receiving from her job was discontinued, and our house was lost to foreclosure. We had 3 days to leave. Once the notice came, we began to pack immediately. Before I knew it, I was at Walmart at 3 a.m., waiting in the aisles as they were emptying out their shipments just so I could collect their boxes and filling up my cart at the top. All the while thinking, how did I end up here? My mother was fresh out of surgery and could barely move, so I was scrambling to look for an apartment for us to move to. After working for a company for over 20 years, they simply threw her away 6 months into her illness. What happened to job security? There was no consideration for that. If anything, it broke my mother's spirit knowing that even if she did survive this, she would not have a job to go back to. Despite being forced from our home, my mother actually began to recover quite well. And for the first time, I had a hint of hope that maybe things might turn out differently. Therefore, we pushed her to fulfill her lasting wish. After 26 years of exile, my mother finally went back to Iran. Unfortunately, that trip was cut short. Her health rapidly declined. My family took her to the doctor where they discovered not only had her tumors returned, but they had spread to her lungs. "Too many tumors to count," were the exact words of the pathology report. It had only been 3 months since her surgery. I flew 36 hours to Dubai to bring my mother home. It was the worst flight of my life. Every second being well aware why I was bringing her home. I began to worry as we boarded the plane. Myself being healthy, the flight did a number on my body. I didn't think my mother could endure sitting for 18 hours on the way back. One by one, I went down the aisles and asked if people could be kind enough to switch their seats with us. My mother was ill and that she needed to lie down. Many people denied, before 2 kind gentlemen agreed, and I never forgot their faces. I sat on the aisle seat while my mother lied with her head in my lap. All I could think about was her taking her last breath. I imagined burying her. I thought about her life and all the things she didn't have the chance to do. I prayed she'd go sincerely, painlessly, to find a world, a place better than this, somewhere she'd finally find peace. My mother lasted 62 days after that diagnosis. Her body withered away to nothing, as did her mind. She would ask me the same question 2 or 3 times a day, not realizing she had asked it before. I used to look at her face for hours, trying to remember every curve, every line, every wrinkle. And as the days passed, she stopped opening her eyes, even though tears would still fall from them. Talking became gentle moaning, then sighs, then silence. I would lie awake all night by her side in the hospice and rub my cheek back and forth against her hand for hours, just so she knew I was still there. I knew my mother would pass away the day she did. On the morning of August 5th, 2009, I woke up with the feeling that I had to leave. I had been by my mother's side 24/7 for the last year, and I'd seen and endured enough as her child. Something inside me told me she wasn't going to let herself die in front of me, and she wasn't going to let go until I did. After 11 days in the hospice center, I kissed my mother, said my goodbyes, and went home. Sure enough, I received a phone call from my sister. She's gone, and she passed when nobody was in the room. I fell to my knees as they began to lower her body. With the blistering heat and sweat dripping down my spine, I was blind to the million eyes watching me. I wanted to jump in there with her, bury me too. That entire day was a blur. I couldn't believe where I was, what I was doing, why I was there. Is this really happening? They started to pour dirt on her, and I thought, my life is never going to be the same. My mother did not have life insurance because no one ever talked to her about it. And she never thought to buy it. The funeral was paid for by money sent in from extended family from Iran, but my sister and I were left with nothing but her things. Her furniture, her clothes, her car. Even then, everything was sold, bit by bit. Clothes that still carried her scent, household items she worked hard for, that we essentially sold for nothing. Letting go of even the simplest things was extremely tough just to survive. Imagine watching strangers walk into your house, scrummaging through your mother's things, memories accumulated over years, all the while they're bargaining with you over prices. Not one of them knowing how much the whole process is ripping you apart. But you have to. You have to. Some items were left behind as we were at a race against eviction. I used to sneak into the backyard of our old house and peer into the windows of the place I used to live. There was a chandelier which my mother would bring from house to house, and she changed the crystals red and white. They always glowed beautifully in the sunlight, but now they grew dim, covered in dust. And the next person to move into this house is probably going to throw it away. These pieces of her life are now scattered to people who are unaware of the history behind them. It's interesting, when you're a teenager, you want nothing to do with your parents. They call you too much, they're too strict, they're too protective. Those things I took for granted when I was younger, I now long for. If only I could hear my mother's voice telling me to get home safe. If only I could share with her my newest adventures or a crush. It was the little things that affected me the most and made me realize how alone I felt. In an attempt to deal with the situation, I began to attend the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. But I failed my 3rd semester and lost my scholarship because of it. I failed because I was more focused on keeping a roof over my head than I was studying. I started working 2 weeks after my mother died, forcing a smile on your face while dying inside. And every night for years, I cried on the drive home. I avoided all social situations because that would require me talking about myself, and the only thing I had to talk about was the last year. I had nothing in common with the rest of my classmates, who all lived normal lives. Isn't it funny how we get college credits for passing exams, but We don't get college credit for surviving life. My sister and I have done nothing but struggle over the last 4 years. We've become slaves to our jobs because without one, we would be on the streets. I remember New Year's of 2010. As the clock struck midnight, everybody in the restaurant roared with joy. And I ran into the cloak closet and drowned into a puddle of tears because that would be the first year I would go on living without my mother. We never got to be like normal young people, college students living a carefree, irresponsible existence. We had our entire lives ripped from us without a second to catch our breath. It's all been stress and anxiety. My rent is due, my fridge is empty, but I don't have toothpaste, but I don't even have $2 because I'm negative in my bank account. And that's how we've been living. By the age of 23, I've held 10 jobs, moved 5 times, and been to 3 different schools. I haven't graduated college. I've worked 10-hour shifts with merely a 30-minute break, if that. I've come home to blisters all over my feet because I couldn't afford to buy better shoes. I didn't want to be one of those people who settled for any old job because I never got an education. I didn't want this life. I didn't ask for this life. But I felt stuck. Balancing between mourning your loss and the struggles of daily life became a battle. Desperate for some school funding, I looked up scholarships online. That's when I came across the Life Happens Life Lessons Scholarship program, and I applied. Part of the scholarship application process is to tell your story, how your life was affected because your parent who passed had little or no life insurance. Each year they provide scholarships for students like myself, and last year I was awarded a $7,500 scholarship, and my life completely turned. My dream of a college education with peace of mind finally came true. And I'm now on a journey I never thought possible. Opportunities have come my way left and right I didn't know existed. I've moved to California and started my 2nd year at Cerritos College, majoring in international studies. I was invited to speak at a few events, and after speaking for New York Live, I was awarded an internship. So in due time, I too will be one of you. But selling life insurance is never something I gave a thought about. On the first day of my internship, my manager was explaining to me all the technical aspects of insurance. But all I could see was this big number he circled on the board, the death benefit. This number, $300,000, looked like $1 million to me. That was my rent and my toothpaste that I couldn't afford. That was me not having to shop at the 99-cent store for groceries. My sister and I having a place to live together, degrees under our belt, and me not standing here telling you this. I truly believe insurance and the protection it offers is something most people just don't understand. Why? Well, I'm pretty sure had my mother been aware of the need for life insurance, she would have done the right thing. As agents, you have the power to bring light when all appears dark, offer hope when tragedy threatens to take it away. You are here because you have done just that, and I thank you for it. And you have a unique advantage to have the ability to give accurate quotes from various providers, shop around for the best prices, all the while saving time on both ends. That's half the battle right there. Had my mom been here today, I could tell her a savings account isn't enough, and Social Security isn't the answer either. I wish I could tell her she should have thought twice about all the what-ifs, but I can't. I can't tell her any of this. So I'm reminding you so you can tell your prospects. I speak on behalf of all those people out there who have not been told about the power of life insurance, because I know from my experience, they would trade all the anxiety, all the hardship, and all the sadness for the opportunity to have the security life insurance offers. If you ever have a bad day, when you feel like you can't pick up the phone to a prospect, remember me. For every time you heard the word no, and every time you call a person and they never call you back, remember me. Remember me and all the ones like me, the ones who were forgotten and the ones we leave behind. Remember that you do this so that you may prevent this from happening. My mother was a beautiful, hardworking woman, and she never gave up, even until the bitter end. I'm here today to honor her and all the ones, thousands like her, as I promise to reach out to as many people as I can every day. All I ask everyone here today is to do the same. Thank you.